Hi, welcome to the campus visit virtual at Keller Center. My name is Shiling Liu, and I'm the program director of the Data and Policy Summer Scholar Program. And today we're very lucky to have Austin Wright to join us and share more about the program details. So Austin, do you want to share by introducing yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm Austin Wright. I'm the faculty director for the program. Which means that while Shaylin does all the hard work running the day-to-day, we figure out how to actually teach you all of the things that you come here to the University of Chicago to learn.
Great. So this is actually our first time doing the virtual live stream. So we want to show you our beautiful new home, Keller Center. We just moved in last December, and this will be your academic institution during the summer. So the new home for Harris, we're very excited to have you. And we're also doing live stream on our application system. So for those who have registered in Slate, you will be able to see my presentation, and we will try to answer as much questions as possible during the session. Okay, so as I said, today we're gonna introduce you about the U Chicago Data and Policy Summer Scholar Program. This is a pretty brand new program for Harris. And we started doing this program last summer. We had about 52 students joining us from 8 countries worldwide, and students do enjoy a great summer experience here. They study hard. So I'll just start with asking Austin, what the program is about, and tell us more about what students are going to learn during the 4 weeks.
Sure. So, our vision for the program was to enable undergraduate students, or perhaps even master's or other graduate level students who are interested in transitioning into the study of public policy, to give them a sense of what that would be like in an American university, an elite American university, where our particular brand of research is to focus very heavily on data science and data analytics. And so, we all are interested in similar big questions about how do we impact public policy. We want to know how can we improve the welfare of at-risk communities, whether that's in China or in Brazil or here in the United States or anywhere else. Those are the questions that we're interested in evaluating, and often it's the case that policymakers are reflecting on answers to those questions that are not based on evidence. And the hope is that the students will come here, will learn over the course of 4 weeks how to engage in rigorous evidence-based policy evaluation so that they can make a more informed decision about whether or not this is the future career path for them, whether or not they want to transition into a graduate degree program, or if actually what they want to focus on is a different subset. Perhaps they find that it's not necessarily the policy analysis that they think is most fascinating, but instead it's the data science or the data visualization, and they really gain a better understanding that that's what they want to do as their career path. I mean, it's kind of wonderful in that you can gain so much from the program, both from the academic and the professional side.
And we have students asking about especially the curriculum of this, right? So I know you teach the quantitative analysis in public policy in this course. You are also one of the faculty teaching the core curriculum at Harris. So can you share more about what that quant analysis course is, and also for students coming from different backgrounds, right? We have students last year, for example, coming from journalism background, sociology, or econ, or stats.
Right.
We have a wide range of students, academic background and interest background. So how will this program benefit them?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess there's a couple questions there. One is, how do you enrich the experience of students that are already coming in with a pretty well-formed background in either economics or in public policy evaluation, econometrics, statistics, math. And for those students, there will be opportunities to engage in advanced research, right? Now, the second piece is that I think the majority of the students who come to the program fall into is, they're thinking that their major is going to be in journalism, right? There are many journalists who are interested in these big public policy questions, and many that use data science and data analytics as a motivation for the work that they do. How do you find the big scandal before someone else? You dig into the data, right? How did we find out about the Panama Papers? Digging through data. right? There's enormous opportunities once you have that skill set to harness it in that setting. But of course, then we have students from psychology, anthropology, sociology, political science, and I think the key thing across all of those is that you may have some foundational introduction to statistics. What we're going to teach you over the course of 4 weeks is how to think about these questions from a causal inference perspective. Mm-hmm. How do we actually disentangle the correlation from causation when we're looking at 2 or more variables? And the way that we've set up the curriculum is actually to mirror what the core classes look like here at Harris, which is we have a whole quarter on sort of introductory statistics, and we have a whole quarter on regression. And effectively what we're doing, given the amount of time that we have in the classroom, is we're taking the most important elements across 2 quarters of coursework, and we're putting it into 4 weeks. And I thought that it was successful last year. And certainly there were things that we're going to change for this year, including introducing more sort of hands-on with research. So one thing that we found that students really got excited about, particularly those that didn't have a strong math background, was, I want to see how this concept can be applied in the real world, right? I want to see how this is done in research, right? How can we actually learn something meaningful from the math that you just showed me an hour and a half ago? And so what we did is, which we're going to be repeating again this year, is to introduce readings that use the method that you just learned, that are not so far advanced that you can't see how the math or the statistics or the lecture material that you just learned, how it's relevant. And so that's what we're planning on doing, and that gives us opportunities to differentiate across the entire spectrum of ability.
Right. So I think one thing we do want to emphasize here is, even though it sounds like a short-term program, 4 weeks, but we're trying to get, because students are from Monday to Thursday, they're going to study at least 6 hours of lecturing time every day from Monday to Thursday, and they will have at least 1 hour TA session afterwards. So it's pretty, in terms of the effort and commitment, it's a big commitment, but the return you're going to get is, I think essentially it's a mini Harris experience, because you're going to learn all the core curriculum that our students will be learning at the upper undergraduate level, right? So depending on your background as well. So for those more experienced students, probably during the faculty-led Capstone Project, they are able to show more of their potential as a more leading role there. So I think this is a good sense for students to know, in terms of the daily life you're going to have from Monday to Thursday is pretty heavy in terms of the curriculum. And also, can you tell me more about, the faculty-led Capstone Project? We know that that's the 4th week of the program, and we want you to, as you just mentioned, we want you to apply what you just learned in the first 3 weeks. Can you share with me, last year was the project you did with students? Yeah,
so the big thing that you mentioned is, it's a lot of work, and we think that the benefit of it being a lot of work is that means that there's a lot of value added, right? That we can go over material that would otherwise take a quarter and a half, and we're going to do it in 3 weeks, right? And we're doing it at a pace that I think is sustainable. But at the end of it all, you want to be able to think about that applied research experience. We want to give you an opportunity to flex the knowledge that you've gained. And a big part of that is this faculty-led Capstone Project. So last year, the students worked on smuggling in the Mediterranean. And so, starting in the late 20-teens or early 20-teens, there was this humanitarian crisis in the Mediterranean, with folks from all across the African continent, but a lot coming from the Middle East and North Africa, were making this very difficult decision of moving themselves and perhaps their entire family across the Mediterranean into Europe. And we're talking about thousands, perhaps even tens of thousands of people making this decision every day for years. what we wanted to think about giving the students an opportunity to do is to really dig in on some research that was ongoing for me. And we wanted to think about how do political instability and risks associated with mortality or loss of life at sea, how do those things impact decision-making of fleet? And what we end up finding is some really strong evidence that these populations are very responsive to weather conditions. They recognize that really death in this context, missingness, injury, all of those things are really, really strongly correlated with wave conditions and sea conditions. And that clarifies a lot of the things that we knew from journalist accounts, right? That we had some intuitions about in the policy literature, but no one had ever gathered any rigorous evaluation, right? No one had ever done this. And so that's what the students were able to engage in last year, and it was really exciting. And so we ended up having quite a few students that I think did really excellent work. They learned how to actually produce real research, which if you think about it, like it typically takes us more than 4 weeks to figure out a research project within a given semester. And we're talking about not only are you going to do that in 4 weeks, but you're also going to learn all these like really important concepts as well. And I think, at least for me, that's really exciting. That potential is, I think, incredible.
Just curious, how did you get the data?
So we have the data from the United Nations, and we also have some data from the International Organization for Migration. And so, as an offshoot of that project, we now have an ongoing, really large-scale project with the World Bank.
Okay.
And so, that opportunity that students were actively engaged in has turned into a policy priority in the international community, even among big donors like the World Bank. And so, the work that students did, I think it can be pivotal, not only in terms of learning, but also in terms of helping us rethink our policy priorities.
That's fascinating, and that's also one of the projects you are leading, the policy labs.
Yeah, so I'll be leading another Capstone project, and the nice part is that this year it's not just me dominating the Capstone. Of course, if students want to work with me, that's exciting. I would love that, but we have 2 other faculty members that are going to be joining us for the summer that will be leading their own Capstone projects. And what we wanted is, look, not everybody is interested in that policy area. Now, we designed the one last year such that everyone could gain something from it. But sometimes you want to work on what you're interested in. Look, if you are interested in education reform or macroeconomics, that's not the project that you want to work on. And maybe you don't get as much out of that project. And so we redesigned it such that now we have 3 separate pods of Capstone projects that students will have an opportunity to work on. And so I'll be teaching one, and it could be that we revisit that project and we kind of work through the data again. I feel like it's a really good learning exercise, but I feel like we've already learned quite a bit. Yeah, there's just so many opportunities for us to engage.
Projects, right. Great. And also because for this program, we draw attention from a very wide global audience group, right? So we may have students, domestic students joining us. We have students, for example, from China, from India, who are currently undergraduate students, and probably who have never, come to the U.S. in a higher education institution. So, as a faculty at Harris, what is the suggestion you have for students, especially who are less familiar about the higher ed setting here, and also engaging with the student, because I think students, they do look forward to talking to faculty here and also get more academic resource for their future development.
Yeah, so I think you're going to have plenty of time in the classroom. I mean, what I would say is the students are going to have plenty of time in the classroom to learn what it's like to be in, at least in American university. There are so many elite institutions around the world that students are coming from. And those institutions are rigorous in their own right. But I think what you want to think of is that effectively we're jamming 2 quarters of information into 3.5 weeks of time in the classroom. And that's going to give you a sense of the pace of what it's like. Because students are meeting much more frequently. They're getting exposed to a lot more material given the amount of time that they're spending together. The way to think about this is every day the students meet is the equivalent of a week in the U.S. quarter system, which is kind of incredible because students are meeting for more than the equivalent of a quarter over the course of just 3 weeks, and that's pretty amazing to me. And so I would say the thing to take away is that this is going to give you an introduction to how intense and packed in some of the work can be, but the big part is that, and I think you all have done a really good job with this, is that it's not just all about being in the classroom. It's about experiencing what it's like to be on a campus. And students are going to have so many opportunities to engage on that on Fridays, which I think is wonderful.
Yeah.
And then, we also get opportunities to have fun with one another, right? And so one of my favorite experiences was the boat trip, right, from last year.
Yeah.
And also all the times that I got to spend in after hours with students, right? When I stayed late for office hours, or I stayed late for the TA sessions. Those were all, I think, those moments when I got to sit down with students, and one student in particular was working on this problem that I remembered solving second year in grad school. And I was just like, oh man, this is so, it's so amazing that, look, students in the summer during a 4-week program are solving a problem that I was the second year into a PhD before I saw for the first time. And, again, it's not to say that it's an incredibly difficult problem to solve. It's just so exciting to see students have that opportunity.
And the energy probably being just thrown there.
Yeah,
during
there's just, there's just so much energy.
Yeah.
Look, that's the nice part, is that it's only 4 weeks. If this were a 10-week program, then it would be unsustainable.
Yeah.
But given that it's it's 3 weeks of coursework and then that last week of research,
Right.
you feel like you can put as much energy as possible into it. And I feel like that's really how you get the most benefit out of it.
Yeah, and also because students, as you said, they meet every day, and
Every
they
day.
live in the dorm together.
Yeah.
Basically, that's a very strong bonded cohort that they will also support each other, right?
Yeah.
Because tell us more about the assignment mechanism, because some students are very curious about what are the assignments they're going to do? Is it group work? How does that work out?
Yeah. So what we had last year, and we're going to continue it this year, is individual assignments. But you get an opportunity to work with other people, right? We want the work to be your own, because we obviously want, the reason why you're here is you're excited to learn, and we were excited to have you learn. And so we really do want you to be focused on that aspect, right? It's not all about submitting the assignment. Obviously, you need to do that, but the point is, what are you learning? That's really what we care about.
Right.
And what can we do to make sure that you're learning the most possible? And so we'll have a couple, we will have assignments throughout the time of class, but class is pretty intense. And there's no way that we're going to be able to examine, remember that each of these weeks is the equivalent of a half of a quarter, right? So we would have to have a midterm exam to really get a sense of what you're learning. And that's just not a reasonable thing, right? So we'll have assignments, but the focus is not on getting a better grade. The focus is on what have you learned, and how can you improve.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Austin.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think
Happy to do it.
you answer a lot of the academic and core experience related questions for the summer program. And now I want to share more with students from the admission side and also the application, because we're still actively accepting applications now.
Okay.
Okay?
Excellent. All right, I'm going to step out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. So for those who are joining us in the application system, so let's continue to share with you more about, because Austin mentioned a lot about the academic experience of this program, which is the core experience we want to have. Essentially, we're building a Harris Mini experience for you to explore whether MPP or Mastering Public Policy is something that you really are looking forward to. And so now I want want to share more about, the fun side and also the more comprehensive professional development side of this program for you. So as Austin mentioned, on Friday, we have 4 Fridays during this 4-week program, and we're going to equip you with a lot of professional development activities here. Because Chicago is the 3rd largest city in the U.S. There are a lot of great talent. In Harris, we have a lot of alumni working in Chicago in different sectors, nonprofit, public, private, etc. And we have a huge team as the Career Development Office at Harris to support you. So even for you, for example, if you're an undergraduate student or you're trying to switch your academic focus from other areas into public policy, we're here to equip you with what is the landscape of policy-related job market here in the U.S. What is networking for you, because we know it's very challenging for every one of us, and what are the professional organizations that you may be able to visit during the summer. So that will be very exciting for your Friday series to learn more about the practical side of this program. And of course, as we said, because it's such an intense program, we want to make sure that you have the full support from us. So for this program, we're going to have peer mentors for you who are currently UChicago graduate students. So they will support you during the program period to, let's say, if you have any life-related questions, that they may be the best resource for you, because they've been through probably the stage that you're going to go through later. And also because at UChicago we have a lot of different admissions resources. So Harris is one of the largest professional schools at the campus, but we also have, for example, social sciences divisions, other professional schools that we also want you to explore if you are interested in doing graduate program in the future at UChicago. And of course, summer is the best season for Chicago, so we will also have some group activities in downtown and also help you explore the city a little bit. So hopefully, that will give you a sense of what a Chicago experience for you at UChicago or the city of Chicago, and so that you know exactly, as your next step, if you're thinking about graduate studies or public policy, hopefully you can join us back to Harris. And actually last year, we had 5 students being admitted from the summer program to our, legacy program, to our master level programs. So that's a really good sign for us, because we knew that the student gained a lot from the summer program, and they knew clearly what they're going to get out of Harris during their later, 2-year experience at Harris. So we are very, confident that they will thrive at Harris, and they are also very happy that for the summer they knew that what they're going to do, and now they're going to join us in this fall. So in a nutshell, you're going to do quant analysis in public policy. That's essentially like a full quarter course. An introduction to programming R, that's another pretty quant heavy course that you're going to do during the first 3 weeks in the afternoon. And as Austin mentioned a lot, every student will be able to join the faculty-led Capstone Project, and also we'll have the professional development series. So by completing the program, you're going to receive 2 official documents from UChicago. One is the transcript from the University of Chicago registrar office, so that you have lifelong access with pass-fail grade, and also you're going to have a certificate of completion from Harris. All right, so as I said, we're still actively receiving applications. At this moment, all applications are, decisions are made on a rolling basis. So basically, the earlier you submit the applications, the sooner you get the result from us, and the more likely that you're gonna secure your seat to join us this summer. So the application itself is really not a hard process at all. Probably it won't take you more than 30 minutes to finish it. Essentially, we want to know why you want to join the program. So we ask you about your motivation statement, which is only 300-word limit. So why you want to join us, what's the benefit you think you want to gain out of the program, and what's plan you have during this 4-week. And also we have one required short essay and your resume and your undergraduate or graduate transcript. And for international students, who may need to submit TOEFL IELTS for their language efficiency report, If you don't have those, tests taken, at the University of Chicago, we have an internal language assessment test called AEPA. So that's a very simple 30 minutes verbal communication with a language specialist. So you can request to take that. So the application is pretty simple if compared, let's say, to a normal Harris, master level program application. And we have an entire team here to support you during the application process. So we definitely encourage you to, if you're seriously thinking about spending a summer with us, submit your application or start your application today, and we're here to support you. And as I said, in terms of the application deadline, which a lot of students have questions about, we have in general two types of students here. One is for those who need a visa to enter the US to do the program. You're going to need a J1 full-time visiting student visa. So for those students, because it will take longer for you to get the visa after you're enrolled, so we have for session 1 of the program, you have the deadline as March 29th. For session 2, you have the deadline as April 15th. So that's for the visa needed population. And for students, let's say domestic students or international students who are currently already in the US studying full-time, you don't need a visa to join us. You can just use your own visa, or you don't need a visa at all. Then that's April 30th is the deadline for both sessions. All right, so the admissions process is pretty simple. As we said, we're gonna release offers on a rolling basis. So you will be hearing from us probably 1 to 2 weeks after you submit your application. So that's a pretty fast turnaround to let you know that what your next steps are. And the program fee for the summer is $9,500. That includes essentially everything: tuition, course materials, your on-campus accommodations, meal plan, health insurance, etc. And we do provide partial scholarships for top candidates. So if you can demonstrate in your application that, for example, through your motivation statement, etc., why you want to join the program, and so we have a partial scholarship that will count towards your program fee. And that's all basically from the admission side, as well as you hear from Austin about the curriculum side of this. And now let's see if we have any questions for students who join us online. All right, thank you so much.